Hey, what's up? It's Maddie at mixandmastermysong.com. Today I'm going to be going over my iMac Pro and how it works with Studio One. A lot of you guys have asked if this was an iMac Pro, and yes, in fact, it is. So what I'm going to show you is we'll kind of try to push the boundaries of what you can do with this thing as far as CPU and all that when it comes to Studio One. This thing's been super impressive. I had upgraded from iMac 2016, which was pretty good, but sometimes my mixes get pretty heavy, and some of the mastering plugins, as you see I use, tend to really take up a lot of CPU. So I was just kind of getting a lot of spikes with that computer, and you know, this was pretty a big investment, about $5,000. But I mix and master songs every single day, and I just need something that always works. So this has turned out to be really pretty impressive, and I can push it pretty dang hard and don't have any issues. So first we'll run through the kind of the specs of the iMac Pro I got, and then we'll turn on some plugins and do a couple of runs and show you guys just how much you can throw at this thing. So let's jump on in. First off, we'll just go and show you guys what this is. So I'm running Mac OS High Sierra, the latest version. This is the iMac Pro 2017. The processor is a 3.2 gigahertz Intel Xeon W. I got 32 gigs of memory. Now, for me, RAM's not that big of a deal because I don't really do a lot of producing and stuff where I'm using lots of virtual instruments and stuff like that. Virtual instruments is a lot of times where RAM comes into play, and if you're doing something like that, then yeah, maybe you want to bump it to 64 or 128. Even still, 32 gigs is a lot of RAM. And like I said, the most RAM I'm usually using is like 10 to 12 gigabytes. So 32 is more than enough for me. And then what it is, it's I don't think it says the cores here. I think we're gonna go to system report. It's the eight cores. It's the 8-core one. So basically what this is the base model. Just like it is. I didn't feel like I needed any more cores. I felt like, I was doing pretty well with the iMac I had. If I just could bump it up quite a bit, and just getting the base model of this iMac Pro bumps it up quite a bit, I should be good. And so far, I've been all right. Now, like as far as Studio One goes, I have not had any glitches, except sometimes I was finding on bounce downs and stuff, I'd get these audio skips, and I'd have to bounce the whole song again. And because I use outboard gear, I have to bounce in real time. I can't offline bounce. So it was a pain, and sometimes I'd bounce a song 3 or 4 times. And I was starting to think, man, this new Studio One 4 is glitchy or something. and my experience with Studio One, whenever there's a glitch, it's usually a plugin. And so I found out which plugin it was. Just switching from AU to VST can sometimes be the difference. I find that VST and VST3 plugins seem to perform better on a Mac and Studio One. Not sure why that is, but I find usually the glitches I have are AU plugins. So take that how you want to take it. As far as the CPU, so we have this session. I'm not going to play any audio out of here, so just so you know, because it's a song I was about to start mixing, and I don't want to play stuff that's not released. But there's 19 tracks in here, which isn't a big song, but there's 19 tracks, so we have that to play with. So just playing that and looking at our CPU, it's nothing. It's at 3%. So that's a good start. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go here, and I already put some plugins on, but I deactivated them. We're going to go ahead and use this the Slate Virtual Mix Rack, and look how fast 19 plugins is turned on. Pretty crazy, huh? And then, I got this on the other screen. Let me pull it over here. And so we got quite a few plugins loaded on each one of these. I just duplicated these channel strips, so they're all the same thing. Ton of plugins in the Slate strip. So let's pull up the CPU again, and barely doing anything. We got all these going, and it's only at 11% now. So that's pretty good. So basically, you can EQ and compress every single channel of a 19-track song and you have no problems. So that's pretty good. So now let's add some reverb. So this is really getting crazy. We're going to put 19 instances of the Slate reverb plugin and see what that does. And once again, look how fast this thing loads. All right, so now let's hit play here. So this is like having 19 aux channels with reverb, Slate reverb on it. Now we're starting to move a little bit, but we're still not even hitting. I mean, we're at 17. That barely added anything, right? So let's try something else. Let's try another brand, and we'll do it on all these. Let's try the Fab filter. So everyone uses the Fab filter. I would use the Q2, but that's not going to do anything. Let's put the Pro R on all these channels. So 19 more reverbs, 19 Pro Rs. And then we'll hit play. And let's check out our CPU now. And still now we're only, after it kind of stabilizes, 24%. I find sometimes when you first put plugins on, it's probably just because, you know, it's loading all the stuff. This thing can start bouncing quite a bit. And you'll see that once we get to some of my mastering plugins. But yeah, so now we got 19 Pro Rs, 19 Slate reverbs, 19 Slate channel strips, and we're only at 25%. So, I mean, if you can't get a mix done with all this going on, then you don't, you know, you need to reevaluate it and not get a new computer. So that's that. Now let's go to the master channel. So here's one of the plugins I use in mastering. So after I come back in for my mastering chain, I use this guy called the Dyne 1 by Leapwig, and you can actually check this out in some of my other posts. I think I did a blog on 3 mastering plugins I like. This was one of them. This thing is a CPU hog, and you can see once I pull the CPU up, it's 12. So it's using 12. I don't know 12% or what this is, but you can see the Slate ones, even the reverbs, which are usually pretty heavy, are like teetering at 5 to 6. This thing uses 12. So now when we hit play, we've gone up substantially up to 37%, right? And then let's turn this off. And it takes us back down to 25, 24. So these take up a lot, and you're only going to ever really use one of these. And like I showed in my other video, you can change the CPU usage on this thing, but this is, you know, when it first starts up. So as you can see how it spikes up. Things really move fast when you first kind of turn on a plugin. And that's the one thing that's a little funky sometimes, and then it stabilizes. So let's really push this thing all the way, and let's turn on another one. See where that takes us. And then another one. So even with 3 of these, which take up a lot of CPU, we're only at 52%. Then we hit play with 19 channels, and it gets up a little more. So we're starting to get pretty high here. But, I mean, now we're going to turn on an ozone too. And the ozone doesn't take up much. What's interesting is why the ozone's only taking up 1. Usually it would take up more. Let's do some stuff here to make it work a bit. See if that changes things on the ozone at all. Where'd our ozone go? There it is. Now it's up to 4. Add the exciter. An oversample, bring some bands up. Luckily we can't hear this thing because it probably sounds pretty bad. Okay, so that exciter seems to really kind of peak out. So now we're peaking out. We've kind of maxed this thing out. Now you would never ever need to use 3 Dyne 1s ever. And if you did, you could probably want to switch it to the lower CPU model. But let's turn off 2 of these. So now we got this and the ozone, and we're back down to only 54%. So that's pretty good. Another great thing to check out is when you bounce. We'll do an offline bounce first, because sometimes when you bounce, it can take up even more CPU. See, the disc starts moving, but this thing stays rock solid when I bounce. And then even if I bounce offline, I mean online, in real time, this is what I used to go out of the my mastering chain was the pipeline. We tried bouncing like that, and still we're bouncing in real time. We're not having any issues. Now, like I said before, sometimes I get CPU spikes, and it was really kind of bothering me. After watching this, if you get CPU spikes and you're watching this, try recording it with a cam, like your phone, so you can see, because it will spike really quick, and it will show you which plugin spikes. So I was having an issue with one of the Mic DSP plugins I use, and it kept spiking, and that's why my bounces were messing up. So a lot of times, like I say, if you're having issues with Studio One and CPU usage, a lot of times it will have to do with a specific plugin not working correctly in Studio One. So anyway, that's that. Other than that, this computer's been amazing. I haven't had any sort of issues with it breaking down, or I had one time where the password wasn't working right. I was able to reset that, and it worked good. I've had this probably about 6-7 months now. So no issues, no overheating. It's quiet. I don't hear anything. I don't think I've ever actually heard it like rev up. And if you have an older iMac or a different iMac, when you're like bouncing down or you got a lot going on, you'll hear the fans going. This thing, I've never even been able to get the fan going. So it's been nothing but a workhorse, you know. And if you're doing this every day, or if, you know, you're real serious about your music, it might be something, you know, to look into purchasing. Because now, honestly, I mean, I still like the sound of analog, but you can do a whole album in a computer. So if you just bought one of these and Studio One and some plugins, you're done. And some good speakers in a nice room, you know, you're done. But yeah, so check it out if it's something you're interested in. Hopefully this video helps. It's just showing you just, you know, how much you can push this machine. If you need any songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. And please comment and, you know, like the video if it's helped you out. All right, thanks.